Gin does games! Hey everybody, it's Gin! How you doing? I'm considerably less sick today, so I thought I'd talk you all through the changes to the Masteries for Season 3 of League of Legends. And now I don't quite sound as much like a yordle, or no more than I normally do anyway. There are a few general themes to the Mastery changes this year, and I'd say they aren't nearly as sweeping as last year. First of all, the offense and defense trees have become more focused. They've removed the majority of the utility from them to instead put it all in the tree that's actually named for that stuff. The utility tree is considerably more awesome and exciting than it was before, and is where the majority of the fancy new stuff is. And finally, some numbers have been changed and positions swapped to better fit what is considered most valuable to match up with the item changes. Before we get into the individual trees, let's talk about the Summoner Spell Masteries, as they are more relevant in relation to each other than they are to their individual trees. They all occupy the same Tier 1 slots as before, so that's not a worry. Summoner's Wrath is the simplest. With the loss of Surge as a spell, it had the least spells to its name, so we got Garrison from the bloated Summoner's Resolve. Resolve also lost Revive to the utility tree, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The more interesting thing on Resolve is the change to Heal. Instead of making the heal stronger, it gives the owner a passive, an extra 5 health per level. This will help out any squishy supports that want it for bonus healing on their team. Summoner's Insight lost Promote, as it's essentially an item now, and gained Revive. The Revive bonus now grants extra health rather than speed, which makes about as much sense. Where the speed got you back into the fight, the health will make sure you won't die instantaneously upon revival. Clairvoyance also got a new bonus. Rather than lasting longer, it now reveals enemies for a little while after it ends. This makes it significantly better for tracking enemy movements, even if you just barely catch them with the initial sight. And finally, the Clarity bonus got a buff. Will Clarity finally be useful? Heck, I don't know. We'll just have to see on that one, won't we? Alright then, offense. First things first, we had Alacrity and Sorcery moved to the first tier, except Alacrity's been renamed Fury. Not sure why. Clearly, we just didn't have enough things in the game called Fury already. And off on the side here, we have Butcher, which is completely unchanged. This is all great because it makes the offense tree that much easier to dip into. As a support character, for example, if I want to dip into offense, it was usually for that cooldown reduction. It's now that much easier to grab hold of without wasting other points in it. On Tier 2, we have Destruction, which is replacing Demolitionist. I would argue this is significantly weaker in most cases, as you'll need a lot of AD to match up to the flat 10 bonus damage. This might, however, be more powerful with Sheen procs and similar abilities. Someone do the math for me on that one. In either case, it sucks that this is a 2-point mastery now. Also on this tier, we have Deadliness and Blast, with a great buff on Deadliness in line with the changes to AD in items. Clearly, Riot wanted the per-level scaling earlier in the tree, giving long-term gains to those dipping into the tree. The most awesome and important thing, though, is that Deadliness and Blast now build into Weapon Expertise and Arcane Knowledge respectively. This is a huge buff to a number of characters, especially AD casters. I don't have to take attack speed while building Garen. Yes, please! Furthermore, it just makes more sense that damage would build into penetration for that damage type. Though the numbers for the penetration here are slightly lower, remember that penetration has also been improved overall in the damage calculations. That is, percent penetration happens before the flat stuff, so this is still, in most cases, better than it was before. Also on Tier 3 is Havoc, which has been buffed. There really isn't much to say on this one. It's pretty good for everyone. On Tier 4, we have Lethality, which got nerfed. 2 points instead of 1 for the full effect, and it's half as effective for ranged. But don't count it out entirely, because it builds into something awesome that we'll talk about in a moment. Brute Force and Mental Force, the old Tier 1 mainstays, have been moved down here and buffed. Brute Force and the number of points it needs for full effect, and Mental Force by being stronger overall. With these, we can see people who dedicate to putting a large number of points in office being a good deal stronger in the early game, as opposed to simply scaling better as it progresses. Spell Sword is new and all kinds of awesome. With this, spellcasters have all the more reason to be auto-attacking, as they'll be able to add a nice, if small, chunk of damage to every shot. That bonus I mentioned lethality building into? It's called Frenzy. Getting crits means more attack speed. The important question to ask here is, do multiple critical strikes stack more Frenzy for you? I doubt it, but it would be cool if it does. Even if it doesn't, a high crit chance champion will have an almost permanent boost to attack speed right here that I'm sure they'd love. On the same tier, we also have Sunder and Archmage. These haven't changed in the slightest, so there's not much to say. If anything, Sunder is slightly better than it was before with the aforementioned penetration changes. Our final item on the tree is Executioner, as before. Gives a slightly smaller bonus, but gives it to you more often. Is that worth it? I'm going to say yes. I'd wager that the amount of time where the ability is active more than makes up for that 1% damage loss. What you may have noticed gone from this tree is the lifesteal bonus. That's been shifted off to utility, so we'll discuss that later. The defense tree has some interesting changes. First on level 1 is Perseverance. Not the Garen passive, mind you. It's similar to the old Vigor, but stronger at full effect. The question though is, when is it at full effect? How strong is it when not there? I don't know, nor does anyone else as far as I can find around the community. I don't know, so I can't really pass judgment on it. Durability has been moved down from Tier 2, unchanged, and still builds into Veteran Scars on Tier 3, which is also unchanged. Health on the first tier makes it easier for anyone dipping into defense to grab an early game boost. Tough Skin has been nerfed to no longer affect enemy minions. This was singled out and noted by Riot as something that should help reduce the nigh-invincible snowballing nature of top lane. Will it help? I hope so. It still builds into Bladed Armor, which, very importantly, has been moved to Tier 2. This is a very important change for junglers, as they can grab it now without having to spend another 4 points beforehand. Hardiness and Resistance are also on Tier 2, unchanged, just having switched places with Durability. If the jungler needed the armor from Hardiness, then they didn't really gain all that much from what I just said, but they could skip that 9th point in defense now. Unyielding on Tier 3 is a weaker version of Indomitable from Season 2. This change is exactly in the same vein as Tough Skin, so I hope that works out. Also here we have Relentless for slow reduction and Safeguard for turret damage reduction. Both seem like solid and interesting new choices. How useful Relentless will be on a tank I'm not sure, but it will certainly help anyone who's trying to stick to a target. Juggernaut, the Tier 6 from Season 2, has been demoted and split in two. The namesake now only gives health, and the new one, Tenacious, grants crowd control reduction that stacks multiplicatively with tenacity. Both are solid choices since all the old ones at this level are gone. Next to them we also have Block, which blocks champion damage. It's a small amount, yes, but quite powerful in the early game, especially combined with Unyielding and perhaps even the new version of Doran's Shield. Tier 5 consists entirely of new options as well. First is Good Hands, stolen from Tier 1 of Utility and crushed into a single point. I wouldn't call Good Hands in any season particularly good, but you might find it useful on smaller maps like Dominion or Twisted Treeline or Proving Grounds. Reinforced Armor is quite simply anti-lethality, and that makes a good deal of sense on a tank. It's situational, I feel, but we'll see how the new meta develops with items and how important crits are in this version. Defender is pretty cool. It's like a weaker version of Wukong's passive, quite strong in team fights, especially early ones. And Legendary Armor, well, if you thought the armor and magic resist nerfs would destroy tanks, you'd best think again. A % bonus to both of those stats will bring them right where they need to be again. Finally, Honor Guard fills out our defensive roster. It's been upgraded almost to the strength of Season 1 Tenacity. Any tank worth their salt will be wanting this. What you will not find on this tree is anything that gave non-defensive utility, as well as Evasion, which gave damage reduction from area of effect spells. I can't imagine very many people used to take that one to begin with, so I, for one, will not miss it. I will, however, miss Initiator. Use that on pretty much any defensive champion. Still, I imagine the other changes to move speed can make up for it. And at last, we reach the utility tree, where all the kooky cool new stuff is. To get it out of the way, let's mention the removals first. You already saw that Good Hands was shipped off to the defense tree. Sage, however, is also gone. I honestly never saw much purpose in that one myself, so I can't complain about its disappearance. Now, to Tier 1. First, there is Improved Recall, which is unchanged. Can't see why they would to begin with. In addition, there is Meditation, moved down from Tier 2, and also unchanged. Any heavy mana user looking for a quick dip into mana regen will find it here. The regen is arguably more important than the flat mana was the first time, so I don't mind. New to the tier, though, is Wanderer. Similar to the Tier 2 Swiftness from before, but it only works outside of combat. Fortunately, though, each point is slightly stronger, by virtue of it only taking up 3 points. Scout on the next row has been changed, and I'd say for the better. Rather than give a small percent more vision, it gives a lot more vision, but only for a few seconds. This is great to use particularly for team fights in areas with normally low vision. You could drop a ward and it will give all the vision you need to finish the fight with. Mastermind, the former penultimate point, has been significantly demoted. Still, it's probably quite useful. I'd hazard the guess that it's probably here due to the existence of the new items that reduce the cooldown of summoner spells. Those, combined with this, will be quite powerful. Similarly, for cooldown reduction, we have the new Artificer, which reduces cooldowns for items. This is exciting and new, and I'm looking forward to using it with new stuff and old. Lastly on this tier, we have Expanded Mind, which has been nerfed a good deal. Not only does it give less mana per level, it also no longer gives energy. Why is this, I wonder? Was that 10 energy too powerful? I feel like this, if anything, is the one that change they should revert. No reason not to make this still useful to the ninjas. It does, however, now build into Strength of Spirit. This one been brought down a few tiers and slightly nerfed. However, they've reworded it so that it should at least be more easily understood. +1 for every 400 mana is much easier to understand than 0.4%. This at least I can appreciate. Also on tier 3, we'll find old favorites Runic Affinity and Greed, both unchanged and both still awesome. However, Greed's next level up, Wealth, has gained a buff, an extra 5 gold per point in it. This will be well appreciated by any support and opens many options to them. In fact, combined this with the newcomers Biscuiteer and Explorer to be rolling in cash. Biscuiteer, named for YouTube's own Total Biscuit, grants you a Total Biscuit of Regeneration at the start of the game that you can eat for health and mana over 10 seconds. Explorer gives you a free ward or extra money on other maps. With all that, I'm well on my way to considering the utility tree for other roles as well. In addition to Explorer and Wealth on Tier 4, we have Awareness, completely unchanged from before, and Vampirism, which now gives Lifesteal and Spell Vamp. And yes, your champion can benefit from both, so Jax, for example, can benefit doubly from this mastery. On to Tier 5, we have good old never-changing Intelligence. And why should we? Don't fix what's still awesome. In addition, though, we have the awesome new ability that is Pickpocket. This alone will encourage aggressive laning, especially on supports. If properly managed, a shot every time the cooldown is off would give Sona 60 gold per minute and Alistair 100. Very awesome. And finally, replacing Mastermind at the top of the tree is Nimble, a very simple, awesome 3% movement speed. This will give even the slowest champion a good 10 movement speed without even buying boots. Very useful. And with that, we've covered all of the new masteries. I'm very excited, and I hope you are too. If you have any thoughts on the new masteries, leave them in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this, and subscribe for future League of Legends goodness. I'd like to thank my friends at VVV Gaming for helping me out, and you guys for watching. For now, I've been Gin, and you've been watching me talk about a video game. Bye!